ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नाम श्रेष्ठं मनुमाभिसच्चिपुत्रमत्रस्य रूपं तस्याग्रजं रूपुरीं मातुरीं दृष्टावतीं राधाकुण्डं गिरिवरं राधिकमधावसं प्राप्तयश्च पतितकृपया श्रीगुरुं तं नतस्मि। पञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। निखिलाश्रुतिमौलिरात्ममालयति निराचिता पदपङ्कजन्तं अजीमुक्तकुलैरुपश्यामनं परितस्त्वं हरिणां संश्रयामि। अनार्पितचरीं चिरत्करुणयावतीर्णकला समर्पयितुं मुन्नाथस्वलरासं स्वभक्तिश्रियम् हरिपुरतसुन्दरद्युतिकदम्बसन्दीपिता सदा हृदये कन्दरे स्फुरतु वासुचिनन्दना। अजानुलम्बिता भुजो कनकावदातु साङ्कीर्तनैकपितरो कमलायतक्षु विश्वम्भरो द्विजावरो जुगधर्मपाल वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरो करुणावतारो लादिनि शक्तिस्वरूपाय गौरङ्गसूरिदाय च भक्तशक्तिप्रदनाय गदाधर नमस्तुते। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपीककण्ठ राधाकान्त नमस्ते। राधे वृन्दवनादिशेखरनमृत वाहिनी कृपाय निजपादब्जदर्शन्मयं प्रदीयतम् भक्त्या विहीनाय परादलक्षये लिप्तश्चापमादितरङ्गमाद्ये कृपं मयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्नं वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। श्री सच्चिदानंद गौर हरि की जय। श्री हरि नाम प्रभु की जय। श्री श्री गौर नित्यानंद जी की जय। श्री श्री गौर गदाधर जी की जय। श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंद। Thank you. So, welcome to Pranam. Thanks so much for joining us, your live presence, live connection online as well. So today we are in our penultimate meeting of the series of lectures that we have been sharing through the last month, basically here in Mayapur. And at least one day I want to share a few words about where we are here, no? Mayapur and the deity of this place, Sriman Mahaprabhu, and what's the breadth, the depth of Gaura-tattva, Gaura-lila, Gaura-bhav, and the supremacy. No? So I would like to call it today the superlative supremacy of Gaura-lila, which is one of my favorite topics, I must confess, to talk about. Not only about Mahaprabhu and about Gaura-lila, but about trying to establish the ultimacy of Gaura-lila, the supremacy of Gaura-lila among all lilas, the supremacy of Gaura-tattva among all tattvas, the supremacy of Mahaprabhu among all faces of the Absolute, according to our tradition. Not in any sectarian spirit, but just hopefully in a very inspiring, humbling one. And this is somehow nonetheless connected to what we have been talking about throughout this month, which have been different topics from our recent book on radical personalism. And as I mentioned in the very first parts of my book, Mahaprabhu is the Istadeva of radical personalism. So to say, it's the deity of this principle. Radical personalism is nothing but another way of referring to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Mahaprabhu is the Istadeva of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He's the deity of our Sampradaya. That's a very, very important point to understand. That's why we are called Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Gaudiya has to do with this precise place we are sitting now here, Gauda Desh, Gauda Mandal, Sri Mayapura Dhama, Mayapur. So, and Mahaprabhu is the deity of radical personalism because, again, radical personalism is being as personal as we can to the very root. And Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself trying to explore the depth of his own personality. He's called as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead find that is something in him that is perceived by Sri Radha, the Supreme Personality of the Goddess, that he doesn't understand fully. So he embarks upon a new eternal project called Gaura-lila to further plumb the depths not only of Radha's heart, but of who he actually is through the eyes of her, through the eyes of love personified. So this is very deep on a theological level and probably complex. Today's topic may not be that easy. I'm not saying the other ones were easy, but this will be even more complex, but hopefully in an inspiring way. And again, trying to also all of us become aware of where we are here today. What's this place? What's the principle behind this place? Why this place is so unique and so special? Sri Mayapura Dhama, Sri Navadvip Dhama by extension, and Sriman Mahaprabhu. And one of the main points that I like to make when I make this type of presentation is that Mahaprabhu is not only a bridge to Krishna-lila. Mahaprabhu is not only, Gaura-lila is not something that helps us to get to Vrindavan and it's over. It's like a bridge. So I cross the bridge, I reach my destination, I can burn the bridge now. I don't need it anymore. I won't use it anymore in the future. No, Gaura-lila is a destiny unto itself. Of course, Gaura-lila is not different from Krishna-lila in one sense, as much as Krishna is not different from Mahaprabhu. So we have also to keep this non-dual foundation in mind. Be careful of thinking of Mahaprabhu and Krishna as two different people, or as Gaura-lila and Krishna-lila as two different lilas, or as Vrindavan and Navadvip as two different places. Then we start to navigate the abed dynamics. It's equal and different, the same and different. I know we sometimes our way of thinking is more black and white. No, it's one or different. Sorry, but the school of thought you belong to is not that way. It's one and different. So, in one sense, of course, Gaura-lila can be seen as what I like sometimes to call like the pearly gates to Vrindavan, like the entrance door to enter into Braj. I'm not against that idea. The Harinam Sankirtan that Mahaprabhu brought, points to the goal of Golok Vrindavan. And one main reason will be that all the eternal associates of Vrindavan, that we call Ragatmikas, Nitya-siddha Ragatmika Vraja-vasis, all of them appear in Gaura-lila as sadhakas, as practitioners. So that's very user-friendly because we have all these gopis and gopas and cowherd village appearing in another lila as devotees and showing by their example what does it mean to be a devotee and pointing to Braj through that example. So since we are talking about Braj here and the connection between Navadvip and Braj, let's go for a minute to Vrindavan and to what's Vrindavan about, what's Vrindavan mood about. Because you cannot speak about Gaura-lila without speaking about Krishna-lila. And you cannot speak about Krishna-lila without speaking about Gaura-lila. At least for us, Gaudiya Vaishnava. We cannot just again, separate the two completely. So what's Vrindavan? What's Vrindavan? And by the way, what's Mayapur by extension, or what's now? Vrindavan is not a place so much as it is a mood, or we could say a place made of mood. Vrindavan is a land made of bhav, in other words. Because sometimes we think, okay, Vrindavan is a land made of what? Made of a certain feeling of service for Krishna. Every atom there is vibrating in a certain mood. So we talk, yes, a place, we talk about geography, but it's a place made of emotions. It's difficult to understand, because imagine if I talk to you about a planet made of emotions. Sri Maharaj will speak about planets of faith. No, there exist planets made of faith. It's like, well, I thought I can be in a planet and have faith. What to speak of a planet made of that substance? So in a similar way, there are planets made of faith, planets made of love, planets made of emotion. That's what we call the spiritual world. Spiritual world. World is a planet, spiritual. It's not made of earth, water, fire either. It's made of emotion. So there are different emotions, and therefore there are different places. You have Vrindavan, you have Vaikuntha, you have Navadvip, you have Ayodhya. All of them are places, but all of them are emotions that give form to a certain place. The place comes out of a certain emotional disposition that is there. So what's the emotional disposition that we find in Vrindavan? What's the psychology of a Vraja-vasi, to put it in other words? Of course, we can say so much about that. But there's one verse in the Bhagavatam, very, very nice verse in the 8th canto. This happens in the 8th chapter of the 10th canto. And this is in the context of the Damodar-lila. And this is a verse that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes as the Paribhas Sutra of the Krishna-lila, which basically means a short one verse that fully encapsulates what Krishna-lila is about, especially in Vrindavan, because you have Krishna-lila in Mathura and Dwarka. But what's Krishna's Vraja-lila? He says in this verse, chapter 8, 10th canto, verse 45, this given like in, so to say, sutra form. Sutra form. Traya chupanisabdischa sankhya yogas tasatvatay upagiyamana mahatmyan harim samanya tatmajam. So basically the verse says, Krishna, who is known in the Upanishads and by the great sages and scriptures as the Supreme Absolute, that's the first part of the book. Then Harim Samanya Tatmajam, he is seen by Yashoda as her own child. So basically that's the how to say in English, trademark of Vrindavan, which means outside of Vrindavan, Krishna is known and famous as God, as the source of everything. In Vrindavan, there's a shift in consciousness, and everyone sees him as their own, in terms of mamata, in terms of a certain type of possessiveness. Krishna is my son, my friend, my lover, my whatever. So that's the unique contribution, we could say, of Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, Krishna, I like to say, is not God. In Vrindavan, Narayan is God. Krishna is something more, which is very unique. There is something more than God. It's a very unique attribute to Vrindavan, their Madhurya. Madhurya means intimacy and sweetness. In Vrindavan, the Vrajavasis do not worship Krishna. The Vrajavasis worship Narayan and love Krishna. And when they worship Narayan, it's for the sake of Krishna, generally. If Nanda Baba is worshipping Narayan, he's just thinking about, oh God, please protect my child. As we may be worshipping the deity and our mind is somewhere else. That happens also in Golok Vrindavan. Nanda Maharaj is worshipping Vishnu, God, but his mind is somewhere else, Krishna. It's not somewhere else, but you follow my point. So that's interesting. In Vrindavan, Vrajavasis worship Narayan and love Krishna. Again, Narayana and Krishna are not a different person, but different expressions of the absolute. That's how it plays out there. And on top of that, that's not only that's one layer of the psychology of the Vraja-vasis. They worship God, they love Krishna as something more than God. Krishna is God beyond God, as we like to say, or God being an aspect of Krishna. But even when Krishna shows Narayan-like features, when sometimes he does a pretty Aishvaric things, he starts to behave like God, starts to lift heels and whatever. Does some type of strange things proper to God, not to Krishna. The madhurya of the Vrajavasis, the love of the Vrajavasis increases. So that's the nature of the Vrajavasi psychology. They not only love Krishna when he is simple, like when he starts to behave like God on some level, their love is such that it also increases in those moments. Whatever you put on their way, their love increases. No matter if it's Aishvarya, Madhurya, the nature of their love is always exponentially expansive. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the example in Raghavarma Chandrika of the president and the mother. Like a mother has a child and her son becomes eventually the president. So that's kind of Aishvarya. The son became president. So the president is giving the presidential talk first day to the nation. And at one point he said, well, and now I want to invite to the podium, you say? My mother. So everyone's like, and the mother goes to the podium and she's kind of melting in Vatsalya Rasa. And she goes and starts to embrace her child and kiss him. And he's like, no, mom, not here. I'm the president now. Don't forget. But for her mom, now her maternal love increased, that now my baby is the president. First is my baby. Then comes is the president. So it's something like that. If you go to Yashoda with the rumor Krishna may be God, she would say like, oh, how incredible my baby. He's God. First is my baby, then he's God. So try to imagine the psychology of the Vrajavasis. Okay, he may be God, but that's secondary. Wow. You will never put someone being God as a secondary consideration. But that's how it works in Vrindavan. Even if the idea against Krishna may be God, at one point they may first they will totally deny that and have arguments to, as we said the other day, cancel that. But eventually, if somehow the idea persists, they say, okay, he may be God, but first he's my child, first he's my friend. Like, they will be like, wow, my friend is God. But first is my friend. No, my child is God. So beautiful, my child. So on and so forth. So that's the unique type of love of the Vrajavasis, through which they give themselves fully to Krishna. Mind, body, words, thoughts, emotions, lives, possessions, everything, as Brahma is praying in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto. There's a very beautiful verse there, because when Brahma went to Vrindavan and witnessed the love of the Vrajavasis and how Krishna reciprocates with them, he was totally bewildered. We call that section Brahma Vimohan Lila, which is the great bewilderment of Brahma. Brahma is the most sober person in the universe, so he's not easily bewildered. That's the point. He has four heads. He thinks very soberly in all four directions, but at this point in Vrindavan, his four heads are spinning like nothing, completely astonished, completely bewildered, seeing the love of the Vrajavasis. So he starts to offer prayers to the Vrajavasis, to that love in the 14th chapter, that's beautiful section, Brahma Stuti. He says, Aho bhagyam nanda gopa brajokasham yanmitram paramanandam purnam brahma sanatana. Oh, how fortunate are these inhabitants of Vrindavan. They have made the supreme absolute truth their friend. Again, he's the absolute truth, but they relate to him as a friend. What's this? What's their fortune? And then comes another verse, which is the one I want to mention now, verse 35. And Brahma is astonished in both directions, like the beauty of Krishna and the incredible, how to say, reward that Krishna himself is, and the incredible love of the Vraja-vasis. He's bewildered in both directions. So he will tell to Krishna first, what other reward other than you could be possibly there? It's not possible. It's not possible. I've realized that you are the embodiment of all prices, Brahma says. And he almost passes out. So there cannot be any other reward apart from you, above from you. That's one thing. And second is, and this is the main point, Brahma starts to wonder how you will manage to reciprocate to the love of the Vraja-vasis. Because he says in the verse, you gave yourself to Putana. Putana came to you as a demoness, you say? Wanted to kill you. And you gave her the position of a mother. Wow. Now that's completely like, how to say, out of balance. No, I want to kill you and you give me Vatsalya Rasa. It's like, wow, this Krishna is too merciful. That's what Uddhava says in the Bhagavatam. He's so merciful. He gave Putana the position of a mother. So Brahma is asking that. You gave yourself to Putana because you gave yourself in the form of a child and her a position of a mother. So if you gave such a gift to Putana who wanted to kill you, what you will give to the Vraja-vasis who give everything they possess to you? And Brahma starts to think, I don't know, I cannot think of any way you could possibly repay. And Krishna, when Brahma is asking that to Krishna, what you will give him, what you will give them, Krishna doesn't reply. No, in that moment. He doesn't say, oh, I will repay to them in this way very easily. No, because Krishna starts to think about that. That's a good question. What I will give back to the Vraja-vasis? So he remains silent for a moment. This is chapter 14 of the Bhagavatam. And he will reply to this question a few chapters after, almost 20 chapters after. We have to go to the Rasa Panchadhyaya, to the 5 chapters of the Rasa-lila in the 10th canto. He will reply in chapter 32. So we will go now to the Rasa-lila. And I'm talking about Gaura-lila here, don't forget. This is all this is in the context of Gaura-lila. But let's go to Rasa-lila first, because Rasa-lila is the zenith of Krishna-lila. And we will see how in that zenith of Krishna-lila, Gaura-lila manifests. So what do we find in Rasa-lila? In Rasa-lila, we will find that Krishna is bowing to Radha, basically. That God is bowing to love itself. That's the God we worship. We worship a God who bows down to love. In other words, love is supreme, like John Coltrane will say. A love supreme. Those who do not have just some scars won't understand what I've just said, sorry. Anyhow, so the whole of the Bhagavatam, where we find the Rasa-lila, is about the love of Sri Radha, how that love of Sri Radha is, or the madness of love. Even if you want to understand, what's the title of the book? Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad. Sri is a name for Radha, Sri. Madha means madness. Not in Sanskrit, in English, mad. It's like this Madha. So Sri Mad means the madness of Sri for Bhagavan. Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what the Bhagavatam is about. The madness of in love, the loving madness of Sri Radha for Bhagavan Sri Krishna. That's what the Bhagavatam is about. That's it. The culmination. All these other topics that are there are trying to take us to appreciate Sri Mad Bhagavatam, the madness of Sri for Hari, for Bhagavan. So, and this is especially shown in this Rasa-lila, Rasa Panchadhyaya, where Krishna himself is, again, putting his head on the ground and falling at the feet of Sri Radha and worshipping her feet. God bowing to love, accepting love is the goal of my life. That's a very interesting idea. The goal of life is not God. The goal of life is love. And the goal of life is love for us. And the goal of life is love for God. I mean, love for God himself. That's also the goal of life. Krishna has his own goal of life, which is love. I mean, he already has love. But the nature of love is that you can never have enough. So you can always have more. So Krishna is always on a pursuit of further layers and levels of experience of divine love. That's what lila is about. That's why the lila keeps going on. If Krishna already attained all the love he could attain and tasted all the love he could taste, we have to cancel all the lila. There's no more lila in Golok Vrindavan. There's nothing to do because they are already fulfilled. But since they are not fulfilled, they can always taste more. We have Astakaliya Lila. Every day, every moment, the experience of love gets bigger and bigger. So divine love is the goal of our life. Divine love is the goal of the life of God as well. Love reigns supreme for us and for God. And that's the nature of love, as I mentioned. Of course, God is known as Atmaram, self-satisfied. That's in connection to our situation. Many times we are dissatisfied here because of a lack of love. And we could say God is self-satisfied because he has that love. But our Gaudiya Acharyas will be quick to tell, yes, he's self-satisfied, but at the same time, the nature of love is that it always demands more. It always can love more. Love always wants to love. Love is a verb. Love is a noun, but love is a verb. An active verb, a very active verb. So if you have love, you love. And if you love is not a still thing. It's not like you're like this and I love you. No, I love you. I love everything. You don't do anything. No? People won't believe you. No? They want to see love in motion. No? Love has its very practical, active side. So love, again, impels God, his associates to interact and to increase the experience of love. That's what we call lila. And the nature of love is ever expanding. It has no limit. That's why Mahaprabhu said, Prati Padampurna Amrita Aswadanam. In eternity, at every step, you will be relishing the nectar of immortality completely forever. Try to think about that till your thinking capacities collapse. That's the best use we can do of our rational faculties. Make them collapse in connection to these ideas. Love is always growing, always expanding. There's no end to that. Krishna is every day more beautiful, which means the all attractive is every day more attractive. Krishna becomes more Krishna. Krishna Krishnizes himself at every step, actualizes himself more and more. And the love of the devotees grows accordingly to reciprocate to that updated beauty. And Krishna as Kaviraj Goswami said that, no? Krishna at every moment becomes more beautiful, the gopis, the love for Krishna becomes at every moment more intense, and the two enter into a competition where any of the two accept defeat. That's his poetic way of describing the ever-evolvingness of love. That's the nature of love, expansive. So again, the nature of love creates not only Atmaram, fulfillment and satisfaction, but also, in the words of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Pararam. Pararam means sacred dissatisfaction, or a constant thirst for more. In that sense, dissatisfaction. A need for more love, a need to love more. Not a need out of emptiness, but a need that comes out of fullness. That's a very different thing. One thing is the need is the necessities we have out of emptiness. A very different thing is when you are full, another set of necessities come in that moment. So those are the needs that even God has. God has necessities. That's why we can offer some service to him. If he will be completely satisfied in every sense of the term, there's nothing we have to offer, because he's already God, self-satisfied, perfect, and it's like I can just see him and say, Jai. But he has no needs. But in this notion, when we really understand what does it mean to be God, what does it mean for him to love, if you play out the implications of that, you realize God has needs, loving needs, not mundane needs. He needs to love more. He needs to experience a new layer of love for eternity. So we worship a needy God, if you want to put it like that. And that's our great fortune. That offers us the chance to render some service. Because the needs of our beloved will become our need. And we will try to live our life to satisfy that need. That's the nature of love. If you have a need and I love you, your needs become my needs. I don't have a separate sense of necessity now, because I'm fully identified with you, what's your in your heart. Now that's in Sanskrit what we call as tadatmya, oneness, or oneness in mood. I totally empathize with what's in your heart, fully identify with that. I forget about myself in divine love, and I dedicate to serve that. So, and again, when we say Krishna has needs, Mahaprabhu has needs, what to speak of him, those are intense necessities. Again, they're not just like the needs we have. We think we know what's to have a need. We don't have an idea what's to be in need. Unless you learn to love, we don't have a clue of what's to have a real necessity. Sometimes we think, I need a new version of my cell phone, and I need, I don't know, to buy some croissant in the shop, in the bakery, and I need Wi-Fi, and I need hot water in the bathroom, and I need a scooty, and I need you name it. Try to imagine what Krishna says when he starts the sentence saying, I need. I need Sri Radha, because if not, I will die immediately. That's a need. Something that if you don't have it, you die. All the needs we have or we want to have, generally, instead of saving us from death, are impelling us to death faster and faster, are promoting death. So the need that in Lila we will find, the need that Krishna will have in separation of Radha, the need that Sri Radha will have in separation of Krishna, that will be so intense. If you study the narrative of the Lila, you will see they are dying in separation from each other. That's one of the symptoms of separation. The last one, mriti, means death. They never die, just in case. They feel like dying. They are just about to die, because when you love someone, you're going to live without him or her, technically speaking. So our service in that moment, if they are in such need, and if we identify with their need, they're about to die, we are about to die. And we'll do everything to save their lives. That's the unique notion of Lila. In eternity, every one of us will be working very hard every day for eternity to save, on a daily basis, to save the lives of Radha and Krishna when they are separating. And another way of putting it is to make them, to get them together. But another way of saying is to save their lives, because they are dying in separation from each other. So try to imagine, that's a real necessity. They are dying in separation, and they need you to help them to save their lives. So we might better prepare ourselves here to render such a service. That's not a cheap thing. That requires so much dedication and sacrifice. So don't come to me and talk about Manjari Bab very easily and cheaply, because that's not a joke, first of all. That requires so much dedication, sacrifice, understanding of what's actually taking place there. And all this happens because, again, we are talking about God in a very detailed way. Sometimes if we speak about God in a more generic way, there are no necessities. Again, if we speak about God only as self-satisfied, there's no service for us to offer. or even if we offer a service, will be from a place of duty. Okay, I serve God because He is to be served, because He is God, but not because He needs that. God cannot need anything from me. On some level, that's the idea. But the more we get into the realm of what we call lila, Krishna needs you, Radha needs you, Mahaprabhu needs you. It's very humbling, because at the same time, it's like, who am I? Who am I for God to need me? Who am I for having to help them to serve their lives? It's like, even, how can I even accommodate that? But that's the arrangement of Yogamaya, we could say. So the more specific the description of God that we receive, we could say that the more detailed will be the service necessity that God will have. And the more necessity that we will have to offer, the more intense will be the service necessity. So anyhow, going back to our story, we were in Rasa-lila, don't lose track. Remember? Rasa-lila, first Brahma asking Krishna how we'll reciprocate the Vraja-vasi, and saying Rasa-lila, he will reply to that question, how to repay. So after Krishna disappears from Rasa-lila, as we know, Gopi sing Gopi Gita, Jayati te dikam janmana braja, and so on. Krishna reappears. I'm sorry, I'm making a long story short, so much happens in between. And at one point, Krishna appears back in front of the gopis, having witnessed the degree of their love and separation while he was hiding behind a tamal tree. He was like kind of camouflaged there, because Krishna's hue is like one of the tamal tree. That's why he's called Tamal Krishna. So after witnessing that, he reappears in front of the gopis, and he pronounces a very historical verse, which is very connected to Mahaprabhu. So I'm saying all this for you to appreciate what's Mahaprabhu, what's the background of Gaura-lila. So what does Krishna says there? That's the last verse of chapter 32 of the 10th canto. Napareham nirabadya sanjuyam swasadhu krityam vibudhaya sapiva jama bhajan durjara geha shrinkala sambrishya tadva pratyatu sadhana. So basically, Krishna is contradicting what he said in the Bhagavad Gita. That's very interesting. Because the Bhagavatam is one step further than the Gita. So some things that Krishna says in the Gita, he cannot keep them in the Bhagavatam somehow. What does he say in the Gita, chapter 4, verse 11? Let's see, Bhakti Shastri students. Chapter 4, verse 11, what does it say? Jayatamam prapadyante bhajamyaham Bharat. Sar. Last word, Manusya Partha. We cannot leave the verse unconcluded. Manusya Partha Sarvasaha. Okay. Sorry to torture you with all this stuff. You didn't bring me the apple in the beginning, so now I'm the bad teacher, like torturing each of the students. So this verse in the Gita, famous, Krishna is saying, according to how you approach me, I reciprocate accordingly. Basically, he's saying that. First, that's the point. But in this verse that I'm sharing now of the Bhagavatam, Krishna is contradicting himself. In a loving way, he's telling the gopis, I cannot repay back your love. Oh. But you can say, but you say that in the Gita. Yeah, but I was not thinking about the gopis in that moment. I spoke in a more general way in that verse, but when I have to go to the level of love of the gopi, I cannot pay back. I cannot repay back your love. I cannot even know how much is the debt. Krishna saying, you love me so much. That's the realization of Krishna. You love me so much that I'm in debt with you. So when you want to pay back, first you have to ascertain how much is the debt. If you realize, okay, I don't know, I have a financial debt with Hridaya Chaitanya, and I know, okay, I will pay him. First, I will try to figure out how much is the debt. So Krishna tries to figure out how much is my debt of love to the gopis. And the more he tries to calculate, the more the debt expands. The calculator is like explodes. He realizes I cannot even fathom the dimension of my debt. I cannot even say how much do I owe. What to speak of paying it? First, you have to to get the number, and then you have to get the money, so to say. Krishna cannot get the number. Krishna can understand how much you love me. I mean, how much do I owe means how much you love me. I don't know. So I realized that I cannot repay back. I accept defeat. God is accepting defeat at the feet of love personified in the form of Sri Radha and the gopis. I'm not able to reciprocate. Let your love be your own reward. That's what in Christianity also they use. I remember Thomas Merton likes this line a lot. Love is its own reward. There's no other reward apart from love. So Krishna says to the gopis, you have such a love for me. I cannot repay, I cannot give any reward to that love. That love is in itself the reward. So please be happy with the love you have for me, because that love is the highest possible reward. It's such a reward that I myself want to taste that. I myself want to understand what that love is about. I cannot understand what that love is about. This is what Sanatana Goswami comments, hinting here as Krishna announcing his appearance as Mahaprabhu. When he says sadhu, in this word, sadhu means sadhu, who is like a devotee. So Krishna is saying, I cannot repay back your love for me, even if I try for a day of Brahma. That said, and the Sanskrit lends itself to that. I will try once in a day of Brahma to appear as a sadhu and try to repay back your love for me. And in that context, Krishna is saying, I will appear as Mahaprabhu to taste, to understand your love, to taste your love, to appreciate your love, to honor your love, and to spread the love everywhere as an attempt to reduce my debt. I cannot repay back, so at least I will try to sing the glories of that love and to make devotees for Radha. That's basically Mahaprabhu's campaign. He's making devotees for Radha has such a need of service. Remember what we were talking before. Krishna has such a need of love, and Radha has such a need of service to him that she always is in need of further assistance to serve Krishna. So ultimately, the idea of preaching that we may invoke sometimes, ultimately in its most esoteric conception, is connected to that. Let's make more servants for Sri Radha to assist her in her tremendous need of service to Krishna. And also, let's make new servants. So somehow or other, Krishna's Mahaprabhu is trying to diminish his debt. No? Help him to diminish his debt. He's trying to repay back by expanding the glories of her. So let's help Krishna trying to diminish his debt. So, but again, the main purpose of Mahaprabhu's descent, as we know, is I want to taste the heart of Radha. I want to understand the glories of her love. I want to understand what beauty she sees in me. I want to understand what's the happiness she derives by witnessing my beauty. I don't understand. I don't know what that is. I want to taste that. Those are the three main purposes for Mahaprabhu's descent. So Krishna is called in the Bhagavatam Bhushana Bhushanangam, which means he's the ornament of all ornaments. Krishna has ornaments, but it is said that he's the ornament of those ornaments, not the other way around. It's not that the ornaments make him more beautiful. He makes the ornaments more beautiful because he's the very ornament of all ornaments. But he who is the ornament of all ornaments now desires to be ornamented by Radha's luster and by Radha's mood. Radha Bhava Dyuti Shrivalitam. Radha Bhav, Radha's heart, and Radha Dyuti, Radha's luster. So Krishna's Mahaprabhu will come externally covered by Sri Radha's hue and internally embraced by her mood. Or sometimes where Acharyas will say, Krishna will steal that from Radha. And sometimes this is presented as such, because Radha is not willing to give it so easily, because she knows, if I give you my bhav, my world of emotions, you don't have an idea what that will make to you. You don't have an idea what's going on in my heart, she said. You will be on the ground crying and rolling and desperate and calling. I cannot tolerate thinking that you will fall on the ground and hit your head on the wall like Mahaprabhu did in Gambhira. for Radha just to think that Krishna may be experiencing walking barefoot on the pastures of Vrindavan. For her, just that's enough. That's too much to even think that may happen, even if it's not happening. What's to speak for her to think he will be like rolling and heating? But Krishna, again, if she's no, I won't give it to you, Krishna. Okay, I will steal it then. And one way of putting it, like Krishna is known as a good thief. He has a PhD in that, or still he has different degrees, but the PhD comes as Mahaprabhu. Krishna is known as Hari, he who takes away the thief, basically. And Krishna is famous for stealing what? The gopis' butter, the gopis' clothes, Vastrahara and Lila, the heart. Krishna steals the complexion from the clouds, the complexion from the tamal tree. Krishna says in the Gita, I'm stealing the sins from my devotees. I'm taking away all wealth. He says sometimes, Jasyahamandu green. He's taking away. He's famous for being Hari, he who takes away. This is a famous song by Balavacharya, Chogra Ganya Ashtakam. It's just a praise of Krishna in terms of all that what he steals. He steals this, all the song is about a list of his theft. How do you say in English? The list of the theft that a criminal did. What? The criminal record. That's the Chogra Ganya Ashtakam. Criminal record of her. You stole this, you stole that, you stole that. So that's Krishna in Vrindavan, but as Mahaprabhu, he's able now to incur in the ultimate crime. The ultimate, where he really deserves the title Hari, thief. And he's stealing Radha's bhava and Radha's kanti, her heart and her luster. And then we call him Gaura-Hari. Remember, Hari means thief, among other many things. So Gaura-Hari means the golden thief. Like when you say, this is a golden standard of something. You use the word golden to refer to the highest form of something, right? This is a golden rule, golden standard. Well, here you have the golden thief. So Mahaprabhu is a thief. And that's our hope, that he is a thief also. Because that's on a connected note. This is a very nice story that Srila Siddhar Maharaj will tell sometimes, and that's it. There are two policemen in India, and one of them tells, well, we worship Krishna, yes, and he's a thief, yes, and we're policemen, yes. So I think that may be a problem. We are policemen and our God is a thief, and we are here supposed to stop thievery. So I think maybe we are in a problem. And the other policemen say, no, there is no problem. Because a thief, what's the nature of a real thief? A real thief, even if you put walls, high walls, and locked doors and password, a real thief doesn't care for any of those things. He will somehow or other pass through everything and get to the treasure. So similar, all those obstacles, high walls, locked doors, all those things we have put around our heart. So nobody enters there. So our hope is that Krishna is a thief. We were very expert in building all these high things. Krishna, our hope is he will somehow or other enter and capture what belongs to him, so to say. What to speak as Gaura-Hari, where his thievery attained a PhD, basically. So, again, as I mentioned, apart from tasting this, Krishna's Mahaprabhu is committed to, I will spread the glories of Sri Radha. I will try to explore the depth of her heart, and I will sing her glories and make devotees for her. So all this is being included in this verse of the Bhagavatam that I'm referring. 10:32, 22, I think, verse 22. So this, in one sense, the birth of Gaura-lila in the Bhagavatam. Of course, Gaura-lila is eternal, but somehow we can connect it as a sequence. Gaura-lila is exploding here in the zenith of the Bhagavatam. In the Rasa-lila of the Bhagavatam, the highest point of the Rasa-lila, what comes? Gaura-lila. So in the highest point of Krishna-lila, Gaura-lila comes. So that's an important point, because in this way we can think, oh, it's not only that Gaura-lila is giving us Krishna-lila, but Krishna-lila is giving us Gaura-lila. In the zenith of Krishna-lila, Gaura-lila comes. So we can say Gaura-lila is the natural extension of Krishna-lila. Is Krishna-lila reaching a new level? Krishna-lila 2.0, as they say. Because in Gaura-lila, Krishna is experiencing something that he cannot experience in Vrindavan. In Vraja-lila, in Krishna-lila, Krishna is not successful fully, and he needs another lila to be successful, to complete his degree, so to say. That's what I like to call Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Krishna. Try to see the difference. Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna is Tu Bhagavan Swayam. Supreme Personality of Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan. Krishna himself entering into a new role, into a new experience, going beyond the script of Vraja-lila and entering into a new drama, so to say, Gaura-lila. Going beyond the script, not going beyond the scripture, but going beyond the script, so to say, to enter, and that creates a whole new scripture altogether, Chaitanya Bhagavat, and so on, Chaitanya Charitamrita. We have Srimad Bhagavatam, and the evolution of Srimad Bhagavatam is Chaitanya Bhagavatam. It's another extension of the Bhagavatam, another chapter, Bhagavat Mahaprabhu. That's where the Bhagavatam concludes. The last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, what does it say? Nama Sankirtanam Jasya Sarva Papa Pranasanam Pranamoduka Shamanas Namami Harim Param. The very last verse of the whole Bhagavatam ends up praising the Sankirtan of Mahaprabhu. So, as in the same way like the Bhagavad Gita leaves us at the feet of the Bhagavatam, because the conclusion of the Gita is Sarva Dharmam Parityaja. That's basically the end of the Gita. There are a few more verses, but that's the conclusion. Sarva Dharmam Parityaja. That's where the Bhagavatam begins. Dharma Pravito Kaitavo, verse number 2, is basically the same thing. Then the Bhagavatam concludes, Nama Sankirtanam Jasya, ends up in Gaura-lila. So Gita puts us at the feet of the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam goes to another Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, and when we go to books like Chaitanya Charitamrita, we will find expressions that show clearly how Mahaprabhu is, as we were talking today, the Supreme Personality of Krishna. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami will refer to Mahaprabhu as Para-tattva Simha. That's a very important expression. Para-tattva Simha, which means the highest possible limit of the absolute truth. That's Mahaprabhu. That's Krishna reaching new heights. It's still Krishna, don't forget. They are not two different people. But Mahaprabhu is Krishna tasting something that he couldn't taste as Krishna in Vrindavan. So it's the same Krishna extending itself, expanding itself into another lila to taste what he couldn't taste otherwise. So that's what he called Para-tattva Simha. This is very interesting, even if I don't have time now to go there, but the Mangala Charan of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, if you studied it in detail, you will see how gradually Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami starts to reveal verse after verse in the first 6 verses the purpose of Mahaprabhu's descent, and finally in the verse where he describes the purpose for Mahaprabhu coming, the 3 main desires, he will say Sadaishvarya Purnam Jaiha Bhagavan Saswaya Maham Na Chaitanya Krishna Jagati Paratatvam Paramiha. So he's saying there is no other tattva, or there is no other reality greater or equal to him, Mahaprabhu. Another way of saying Para-tattva Simha. There's no other reality, there's no other form of God equal nor greater to him. Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Krishna in Dwarka is Purna, means complete. Krishna in Mathura is Purnatara, more complete. Krishna in Vrindavan is Purnatama, most complete. Still is always complete, of course. But there is some gradation of completeness. And we could add to that, Mahaprabhu is Purna Tama Tama. No, he's the most complete of most complete. No, Krishna in general, he's known by many names, but you never generally hear that Krishna is called Mahaprabhu. He's generally called Prabhu. No? The Bhagavad Gita, he's named Prabhu many times. But Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Dev is called Mahaprabhu, the great Lord. Maha is connected to Mahabhav, the Mahabhav that he's tasting from Sri Radha. So the Mahabhav he's tasting makes him Mahaprabhu, not merely Prabhu. Sometimes I like to give the example, and I think this was an example given originally by Sri Gaur Govinda Maharaj. He gives example of a, how do you call this in English? This like sugar cane juice machines squeezing, how do you call the machine in itself? Sugar cane machine. Okay, you know which I refer to, right? So in connection to the rasa and the sweetness that each one of the forms of Bhagavan present. So you generally put the sugar cane to make the juice, and it's once, and some juice comes, but there you go again. More juice come, and again, and so on. I especially remember those moments when we were in the Dandavat Parikram to Govardhan, because at some point we were like dying of thirst. We will see those shops, and it's like, okay, you know, and they will put it again and again. It's like, stop, give me the glass, right? I don't know, a little bit more juice will be coming, and will be okay. So you can put, no? So I'm using this analogy in connection to the different forms of God and how much juice is in each of them in terms of complete, more complete, most complete, and most complete. So you can put one first bamboo there, and it comes some juice, Narayan. No, let's more juice again. Second time, oh, Ramachandra is coming. A little bit more. Put Dwarkadish Krishna. No, there's more juice to extract. Okay, Madhuresh Krishna. Still there is more. Let's put it. Okay, Vraja Krishna. Okay, it seems there is no more juice. No, there is more juice. One more time. No? Gaur Krishna. Gaur Sundar. Gaur Hari. Now, he's the most distilled, the more refined version of the Absolute. Again, Krishna is known throughout the scriptures as Rasaraj, the king of rasa, the king of the relishers of moods. But that name is only fully applicable when he is Mahaprabhu. Because if you only apply that to Krishna, Krishna himself lacks the experience of Radha Bhav. So he is not Rasaraj, because there are certain rasa that is unknown to him. So only when he appears as Mahaprabhu, then we can call him rightfully so Rasaraj, with all the letters, capital letters, so to say. And again, this is because of this extra lila, so to say, if you want to call it, that is called Gaura-lila. Gaura-lila is Vraja-lila, but extended to satisfy certain purposes. Sometimes the acharyas call the Gaura-lila Parishishta-lila. Parishishta in Sanskrit refers to an appendix. Not the appendix here, but the appendix of a book. So when you have an appendix, means you wrote the book, you finished, but there's something else that you want to add at the end that will make the whole thing complete. But it cannot be included in what you have already written. There's an extra chapter that will help everything else to have further sense. So Gaura-lila is the appendix to Krishna-lila. No? Krishna-lila is there, beautiful, successful, one level, but there's something else we need to make Krishna-lila fully successful, and that's called Gaura-lila. Gaura-lila. And when Gaura-lila is there, everything attains full satisfaction. Sometimes a poetic analogy is given, especially for those of you here in Mayapur, with the Ganga, no? Because about the Ganga and about the Gaura-lila and the Krishna-lila. So, and the Bhagavatam. We have the Srimad Bhagavatam, which mainly describes Krishna-lila, and we have the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, which describes Gaura-lila. So, the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken by Vyasadeva where? In the Himalayas. And that's where the Ganga begins, so to say. That's from where the Ganga starts its earthly current. So Bhagavatam was, try to follow the analogy, please. So Bhagavatam was spoken by Vyasadeva in the Himalayas, where the Ganga begins its current. And in Navadvip, the Ganges kind of reaches its culmination before it enters into the ocean in the Bay of Bengal. So somehow Gaura-lila is the culmination. As the Ganga culminates in Navadvip, Gaura-lila is the culmination of the Krishna-lila, which began in the Himalayas, so to say, by the narration of the Bhagavatam there. You follow my point? In Navadvip, the Ganga becomes stable, so to say, upon reaching the ocean. It's not trying to make further effort to move somewhere else. And the same way, the Ganga here in Navadvip, again, becomes stable. The same way Gaura-lila is the point of the ultimate fulfillment. So there's no other necessary lila other than Gaura-lila. It's not that, okay, now we need another lila apart from Gaura-lila. Gaura-lila is the fulfillment of Krishna-lila. That's basically the point. In Gaura-lila, Mahaprabhu, again, Krishna is obtaining his PhD as Mahaprabhu. Whatever Krishna lacked in Krishna-lila, he's attaining that in Gaura-lila by the mercy of Sri Radha. Whatever lack of, if we want to use the word lack of adhikar, lack of eligibility, to put it poetically, Krishna in Vrindavan feels, I want to experience some things that I cannot experience. I need to increase my adhikar. So how to increase my adhikar? How to increase my eligibility? Okay, that will come by Radha's grace. But grace, as we know, can be fully appreciated by sadhana. If we don't engage in sadhana, grace may be there, but we are not like even aware of that. So Krishna knows, okay, in order for me to increase my adhikar and be successful, I need Sri Radha's grace. And for that, I need to engage in practice. So that's why Krishna appears as a practitioner, as a sadhaka. Mahaprabhu is Krishna as a sadhaka, as a devotee, interestingly. So Krishna becomes a sadhaka to attain his ultimate perfection as Mahaprabhu by Radha's grace. And who is Radha in Gaura-lila? That's another chapter altogether. But because many times we say, okay, Mahaprabhu is Radha and Krishna combined. Yes, but in which sense combined? Now, Radha Bhava Dyuti Subhalitam Nomi Krishna Sarupam, say Krishna, that's correct. Mahaprabhu is Krishna, tasting the mood of Radha. But still he's Krishna. And where is Radha in Gaura-lila then? Gadadhar Pandit. So that's a whole different, we need a few thousand hours to talk about that. But 2 words about Gadadhar Pandit, because this is very important also. So we say, okay, Mahaprabhu is Krishna's Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mahaprabhu is Supreme Personality of Krishna. Sri Radha is Supreme Personality of the Goddess. Gadadhar is the Supreme Personality of Radha. It's corresponding. No? If Mahaprabhu is Krishna in his highest moment, Gadadhar will be Radha in her highest moment, trying to be up to the necessity of the situation to serve her beloved according to the need of the mood. So Krishna wants to fully taste Radha Bhav, so Radha will appear as Gadadhar to fully give that Bhav to Krishna as Mahaprabhu, so he can be successful. Now Radha will appear as Gadadhar, emptying her heart completely. That's the highest form of service. Emptying myself, giving my heart, giving my Bhav, so my beloved can be successful. Krishna as Mahaprabhu is in his moment of greatest need. Remember, we talked about that before, need. So Krishna has needs out of love. And the need he has as Mahaprabhu is the greatest. He wants to taste the heart of Radha. There cannot be a greatest necessity than that. Try to imagine. So if he's in such a need, Krishna is in such a need, Radha is seeing that. She's saying, oh, my prananath is in such a need. Therefore, I am in such a need. Because his needs are my needs. So Mahaprabhu is Krishna in his moment of greatest need. Gadadhar is Radha in her moment of greatest need. attending the needs of her beloved. Because again, if Radha's Gadadhar wouldn't be giving her heart and bhav to Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu wouldn't be successful. Gaura-lila would be a failure, basically. The most important figure in the whole Gaura-lila is Gadadhar Pandit. Because the main purpose of Gaura-lila is Mahaprabhu tasting Radha Bhav. But that cannot happen if Radha's Gadadhar is not giving that Bhav. So Krishna as Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu as Krishna is depending on Gadadhar to receive the blessing of that Bhav and experience that. Without Gadadhar Pandit, there is no Gaura-lila, basically. Although interestingly, Gadadhar Pandit is one of the less known figures in the whole Gaura-lila, that people speak the less. Because it's Radha totally in the background, disappearing behind and allowing Krishna to shine forth as Mahaprabhu, tasting that with perfect humility, not wanting to take any attention. When Mahaprabhu is successful and experiencing Radha Bhav, where is Gadadhar Pandit? We don't hear anything about that. Gadadhar Pandit totally disappeared into the background in Tota Gopinath, in Jagannath Puri, serving there very humbly behind the curtains, in ecstasy, witnessing how my Krishna is successful now. So generally we know of Mahaprabhu as Mahavadanya. No? He's the most generous. But why he's the most generous? Because he's sharing something that first he experienced. But what he experienced is depending on Gadadhar Pandit allowing that to happen. So in other words, follow the sequence. Mahaprabhu is Krishna in his most generous moment because Gadadhar is Radha in her most generous moment. Follow my point? Radha is in her most generous moment giving her bhav to Krishna as Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu can taste that and then distribute that. And only then he is the most generous. So he's the most generous because she's the most generous. If she wouldn't be given that gift to him, he. So again, I hope at least some of these points help you to understand Gaura-lila is very deep. Gaura-lila is very profound, very ecstatic, very intense. And the service necessity in Gaura-lila is equally, accordingly, correspondingly deep and intense. So this Gaura-lila is so sweet and so beautiful that some devotees, hopefully all, but some at least, want to participate in that in eternity. Again, as I said in the beginning, give me a few more minutes before concluding. So Gaura-lila for us is not just a mere bridge to Krishna-lila. As you can see, Gaura-lila is deep and beautiful enough as to just be used as a bridge that then we will burn. And now I'm in Vrindavan. Thank you so much, Gaura-lila. No, some devotees want to participate in Gaura-lila eternally. So in our tradition, that's presented, that's allowed. You can have what we call Golok Vrindavan, and there is a chamber, so to say, in that Golok Vrindavan called Golok Navadvip or Nitya Navadvip. So in our tradition, we can have an identity in Krishna-lila, an identity in Gaura-lila. Don't try to think too much about it because that may be too much, but that's described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti, and many other acharyas. So, and there's a very simple way of explaining why a Nitya Navadvip, why a Navadvip for eternity, because Mahaprabhu is tasting the mood of Sri Radha. He tasted that on earth, as we know from the tradition. And it is said that at the end of his lila, he was successful in tasting Radha Bhav. But also we could make the case that, Radha Bhav is Sudhambi Rasi, as Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur said, Yatayata Gaura Padara Vindam Vindetha Bhaktim Krita Punya Rasi, Tata Sarpati Hridyakas, Radha Padam Bojas Sudhambu Rasi. Radha Padam Bojas Sudhambu Rasi. The service, the experience of Radha's heart is like in an endless ocean. So, okay, Krishna tasted Radha Bhav, but Radha Bhav is an endless, bottomless ocean. So you cannot ever taste it completely. It's not that, okay, I know everything now. What's Radha Bhav? That exactly means you don't have an idea what's Radha Bhav. So the idea is, if Radha Bhav, the experience of Radha Bhav is a bottomless ocean, it means that Krishna tasted something to a degree to consider he was successful, but that doesn't mean that it ended up there. So it can be eternally tasted without end. And that's why we need an eternal Gaura-lila, where Mahaprabhu will be eternally dedicated to explore the depth, to excavate the depth of that bottomless ocean forever. That's, for me, will be the main logical explanation of why there has to be a Gaura-lila for eternity. Although the Goswamis are not talking about that. I mean, the Goswamis hardly talk about Mahaprabhu, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, because their mission is to establish the foundation of the Sampradaya and some other elements. But also they say a few things about Mahaprabhu, which in time other Goswamis like Krishna-das, Kaviraj Goswami, they unfold. Because that's an important point. I have some discussions with scholars who would say, well, if the Goswami didn't say anything about Nitya Navadip, there cannot be Nitya Navadip. If the Goswami said, okay, if they did not say, but that's not only how Siddhanta comes. Goswami established the foundation of our Siddhanta, but there's place for developing our Siddhanta in a way that does not contradict the original Siddhanta. So new contributions, new realizations will be coming as long as they do not contradict the foundational revelation. That's parampara, basically. And the Goswamis describe Mahaprabhu is an avatar, Gaur avatar. So if you're an avatar, means what? What does it mean, avatar? It means descending, divine descent. So if you're a divine descent, means you are descending from somewhere. See, Mahaprabhu is descending from somewhere, means he has his eternal abode. Mahaprabhu is described by the Goswamis as the deity of our Sampradaya, the deity. A deity cannot be, if someone is an Istadev, a deity, it has to be worshipable eternally. Because if not, it cannot be a deity. It has to be someone who eternally has a particular form that is eternally worshipable. If not, he couldn't be in our altar. Because, okay, worshipable for this lifetime, but then in eternity, he's not. But the altar is a portal to eternity. So anyhow, in Navadvip, 2 words about Nitya Navadvip, and with this we are concluding, because we are here in Navadvip now, Mayapur, one of the islands, so which is a replica on earth of the eternal Navadvip, without those sounds from background, that's for sure. They somehow construct things, but without need to. So generally it is described that we will be serving Mahaprabhu in Nitya Navadvip in Dasya Bhava, in servanthood, servitude mode, which is a servitude mixed with Sakya, mixed with friendship. Similar to the relationship a disciple should have with the Guru. Service, but with intimacy and trust and confidence, a type of friendship, Vishramba. So, and this is something interesting that I would like to make, because I've heard about saying, oh, it's Dasya Bhav in Nitya Navadvip, so that's inferior to Madhurya Bhav in Vrindavan. Well, sometimes we end up in these head trips, and we start to calculate everything, and we only want the higher thing. More to receive some type of title that I am for the higher thing only, which at the end of the day, many times is just ego, right? I want to be known as subscribed to the higher thing. Even I'm not willing to do what is required to be part of that, but I want my name in the list. But the point is that the dasya of Nitya Navadvip is also in itself a form of what we call Radha Dasyam. In Vrindavan, we have what we call Radha Dasyam, or Manjari Bhav, or the service to Sri Radha. In Vraja-lila, that's generally established as the main gift of Mahaprabhu, although there's place for other modes, and that's a separate conversation, but there's a place. So, but in Vrindavan, we can serve, for example, to give an example, there's Radha Dasyam to Radha, but in Navadvip, there is Dasyam to Mahaprabhu. But Mahaprabhu is tasting Radha Bhav. So we are offering Dasyam to the Radha Bhav that Mahaprabhu is experiencing. So that's a form of Radha Dasyam also. We could call it the Radha Bhav Dasyam. We are serving the Radha Bhav heart of Mahaprabhu, which is Dasyam. Radha Dasyam is Dasyam. And Dasyam to Mahaprabhu is another form of Radha Dasyam. You follow my point? Just to not take the ideas like very cheaply, basically. So the two of them are there. And again, before concluding, just the reminder, no? Gaura-lila and Krishna-lila are non-different. As much as we can talk as different, equally we will talk about the non-difference. Again, Ved, Aved. We have to learn to navigate this equation. Krishna and Mahaprabhu are the same person, and at the same time, there is a difference in mood and experience of the same person. There's different prominence in certain things that are being experienced. And there are devotees who will have more inclination to serve these two faces of the same person, or one more than the other. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that some have the affinity to serve Krishna in Vrindavan, some have the affinity to serve Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, some have the affinity to serve both. And some have the affinity to serve both equally or in different proportions. There's place for everything. No? Like if you read, I don't know, it comes to my mind Prabodhananda Saraswati. He wrote, for example, on one side Radha Rasa Sudanidhi. So you study Radha Rasa Sudanidhi, and the author Prabodhananda Saraswati, he's praising Sri Radha and the service to Sri Radha and Radha Dasyam. So he seems to be like really, wow, he's 108% exclusively for this. And then you go to other book that he wrote called Chaitanya Chandramrita, and then you are like, he's absolutely biased toward Mahaprabhu. He's completely part. And again, in one sense, there is no difference, no. But he expressed himself, the worship of Mahaprabhu is more attractive to me than the worship of Krishna. He sounds like a fanatical of Mahaprabhu. So again, there is place for different moods. I think after saying all these things about the superlative supremacy of Gaura-lila, also I want to, to balance my presentation, saying there is place for different affinities, and some devotees may not feel that call or may feel that call. At the end, like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, every devotee will feel that their relationship with God is the best, and every devotee is correct. That's interesting. Every devotee feels, oh, my relationship with Krishna is the best, or Hanuman will feel Ram is the real thing. No? And everyone is correct at the same time in their own subjective real experience. So we don't want to become like discriminate people according to rasa. Oh, this is the highest rasa, or this is the only thing, you come to my tribe. Because if we do that, we will be engaging in what I like to call racism. Not racism, racism. To be racist in the context of rasa, right? So don't be racist. Yeah, don't be racist, and don't be racist either. Yeah, that's even worse, probably. And every time I say racist, there was no more racist, racist. No, it's racist. It can also be racist, no? So we don't want to be racist or racist in the context of Gaur Rasa, no? But there is a place for having that inspiration, and we are very fortunate as sadhakas, again, being part of Gaura-lila, of the Harinam Sankirtan of Mahaprabhu, to participate in the process that he established, that is bringing forth his unique experience of madness, divine love. I mean, this is the famous case where Mahaprabhu, the devotees of Mahaprabhu were arriving to Jagannath Puri, and on the rooftop of the palace, Prataparudra Maharaj is asking Gopinath Acharya, he's looking with binoculars, probably like all the associates of Mahaprabhu coming and rolling on the ground and crying and all wet in tears and expressing symptoms of love that he never saw. And Puri is well known for different religious expressions. So the king was accustomed to see different religious expressions, but he never saw something like that. And he saw the group of Mahaprabhu like expressing this type of things, and he asked like, "What's that? No, what's that?" And Gopinathacharya replies saying, "Chaitanya Srishti Prem Sankirtan." That's the exclusive creation of Sri Chaitanya. That's called Prem Sankirtan. Ultimately, it's not only Harinam Sankirtan, it's Prem Sankirtan. So somehow or other, we are part of that. We are invited on that journey. We are blessed with not only with the bliss and the prospect of the most beautiful and intimate Vraja-lila, but again, for those who want the natural extension, the appendix-like version of Krishna-lila, this ultimate superlative supreme experience of Gaura-lila here, as well as in eternity. And what to speak of most of you blessed souls living in Sri Dham, living in the Dham like Sri Mayapura Dham, which again, as we say before, a Dham is made of the mood. And a Dham is not the place, not just a geographical place. It has to do with what's the mood prevailing there. So we have today shared a few ideas about what's the mood of Gaura-lila, Gaura-tattva. So we can also understand, okay, what's the mood prevailing here? If I'm living here, and even if you are not living here physically, we are invited to reside here internally. So some thoughts today I want to share. I hope you have fastened your seatbelt before we started. And as you can see, we went into a slightly different direction today, but I wanted to go in this direction of Gaura-lila, Gaura-tattva, because it's personally a very important topic that I consider we, as Gaudiya Vaishnava, need to be very well acquainted with and properly honor who Mahaprabhu is. What's the lila, what's the reach of the lila, and so on. So we'll leave here, but we can spend a few minutes if you have questions or comments related to the topic, so we stay on topic. So because tomorrow also we'll have last meeting with Q&A on any topic, so let's keep the questions today on the topic, if there are any questions. And tomorrow, if you have questions on slightly different topic, tomorrow will be the day for that. Yeah. Yes?
So Maharaj, thank you so much, Maharaj. Maharaj, you talked about that Vrindavan, it's about Radha-dasan, and Navadip, it's about Radha-bhava-dasan. And I wanted to ask that because we cannot understand the Mandakriya Mahabhav.
We can understand what?
We cannot understand the Mandakriya Mahabhav.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that Navadip, it's Radha Bhavadasan. We're serving the Radha and his Bhav. So how are we going to serve something that we don't understand?
We cannot do that.
So we cannot serve?
Yes.
How?
We have to understand first.
How? We can understand.
I mean, we can understand. We can understand. There's something, there are 2 points here. It's not that we cannot understand that, but it's that we can endlessly understand it. That's not the same. It's not that, for example, it's not that you cannot understand God. You can understand God, but he can be understood endlessly. It's not the same. So in the same way, Madanakya Mahabha, which is a technical term to refer to the highest peak of experience that Sri Radharani has, we can understand that, of course, not intellectually. There is an intellectual introduction to that. You can study Ujjwal Nilamani and some sections in Shastra which describe this is Madanakya Mahabha, these are the symptoms and all the conceptual orientation, but then you have to receive experience and realization and mercy to really understand what we are talking about. So in that, as much as that's coming in time, because that's not a cheap thing, don't expect to have it in the next weekend or something. The more mercy and grace is coming by sincere practice, the more we can understand, the more we can serve those things that we are understanding. But there will be always something that, we have not yet fully understood. That's why in my book on radical personalism, I mentioned you can never fully love Krishna. Krishna can never be fully loved, because even if you love him fully, he can always be more loved. That's the nature of love. In that sense, you can never say, I already fully love Krishna, I cannot love Krishna more. That's an oxymoron. That goes against the nature of love, against the very definition of love. So in that sense, you can never fully understand God, you can never fully love God, but it doesn't mean that you cannot at all understand him or serve him or love him. And that's what allows a perpetual unfolding for eternity. Because if at some point I already fully understand Krishna, I already fully serve Krishna, I already fully love Krishna, things become stagnant, boring. There's nothing else to do. And that's not our idea of heaven, so to say, because that sounds more like hell to me. No, a place where there's nothing to do. I already attained everything, nothing new, no discovery, no excitement. So yeah, one can understand Madhanakya Mahabhav on some way, on some level, not here, although it always begins here, everything. We receive some information, but then we have to apply ourselves in practice and make that information transformation. Information is there to bring transformation. If it just remains as information, that's a problem. So yeah, I mean, again, Krishna himself as Mahaprabhu is still understanding Madhanakya Mahabhav eternally. So it doesn't mean he doesn't understand. It's endless. So in the same way we can understand, we can serve that, but that keeps expanding. I know it's difficult for us to think in terms of something ever expanding, and I think that's one of the most important points we may need to establish. Huh? What?
The universe.
Yes.
The theory is
yes.
Not just expanding. It's expanding more quick and never understand why.
Yeah.
Because the gravity wants to keep it, and the universe is quickly expanding and expanding more quick.
Yeah, and there are even theologians who will make the case that the expansion that we see here in the universe is actually a reflection of the expansion that goes on in God's heart, that becomes somehow reflected here. Because we also say whatever we find here is it's a reflection of the spiritual world. So here we find expansiveness is because in the higher realm, there is expansiveness. Love is ever expanding, ever evolving. So I think we need to emphasize that a lot, to think of our life, of our practice as ever expanding, ever evolving. Not so much, I'm here, I do the correct things, I reach the goal, end of the story. But something that is constantly moving, expanding, growing forever. It's not that we reach there and now I have my cloud, I can rest forever, and I'm just I'm saved. And once you reach there, that's when the real thing begins, in one sense. When you're fully awakened, fully realized, fully loved, that's when you can really expand and grow without limits, without conditioning. So, yeah, anyhow, some thoughts, yeah. Something else? Oh, Maivan, coming from the dark.
So as people who live here, and I think that probably we have something to understand from this Gaura-lila, but do you advise us to first try to understand what happens in Vrindavan before trying to understand what happens here? Or can we do it short?
What do you mean trying to understand what happens in Vrindavan, like becoming more familiar with Krishna-lila and so on?
Yeah, you see that it's never ending to understand that.
Yeah.
So I don't know to which extent we should first understand that before trying to understand another deep down.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't make it like a law, like first this and then this, because if not, you will spoil the whole thing. I've seen different cases and it worked in different ways. I've seen devotees who got introduced with Gaura-lila, and then they went more to Krishna-lila, and they went back to Gaura-lila with another depth. So, and they then went back to Krishna, because again, it's not just like, you can perpetually. So I will make a law with that again. So whatever, the two of them can work. At least having this general idea that what I shared today, whether you go to Gaura-lila or Krishna-lila, you know how much they are, the two of them, interrelated. So basically that, I'm not the person who will be like, this is the only way to do it. The other way around, total danger. No. But again, probably one begins with Gaura-lila, but without maybe going too much into the depths of, like Srila Prabhupada when he went to the West. If you study his schedule, so to say, the first lectures he will give in the West mostly were Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because he was so much with that. When he if you read his letters in the Jaladutta, he was studying Chaitanya Charitamrita and relishing the depths of Gaura-lila. And he went to New York and started to give lectures of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he realized, oh no, this is too much. And he stopped giving lectures on Chaitanya Charitamrita. Before reaching the West, he wrote this book on the conversation between Ramananda Roy and Mahaprabhu, who is the highest point in one sense of the Gaura-lila. But then when he went to the West, he was like, okay, let's adjust to the situation. But he made it clear, Gaura-lila, I mean, generally the sequence he presented was Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in that sense, he put Gaura-lila after Krishna-lila. But of course, it doesn't mean that we will never talk about Gaura-lila unless and until we finish studying the 12 cantos or something. So there is some reference for some good reasoning for, okay, let's go to Krishna-lila and then let's go to Gaura-lila. But let's see all this together also. But again, with this, if someone tells me, Maharaj, but I'm feeling some inspiration to study Chaitanya, I'm not canceling that. I mean, I think at least it's good to keep in mind the connection between the two, how one is very naturally expanding into the other, so to say. As long as we have that proper connection, and we don't see them as separate, or we don't see just Gaura-lila as a mere bridge, so to say, I think we are on safe ground, whether we are with one lila starting, with the other lila starting. Yeah. Okay. Well, something else? One more? Okay.
Actually, Maharaj, just two small questions.
Okay. Okay. Let's start with her then. You already made one question. Sorry?
We said Gaura-lila, Mahaprabhu is eternally in Nityanadi. Is he also preaching there then? Because he's all about giving away.
Preaching to whom?
So that aspect of him will not be there in Nityanadi.
Oh.
It's only when he comes to.
Of course, because in Nityanadi, all of them are eternally as liberated. I mean, liberated people, so you don't have anyone to preach to. Of course, they will. I mean, if you understand preaching, that's also a point to make. If you understand preaching as talking to newcomers to make them connect, no. Because sometimes the word preaching also you hear expression like rasa prachar. Also preaching can be taken in terms of sharing harikatha. And of course that will happen eternally. But you are not like recruiting new members, because I mean, for you to be Nityanavadi by definition, you cannot be in the spiritual world without being ready to be in the spiritual world. And if you are there, you don't need to be preached to. It's like when this disciple of Prabhupada on earth, they were visiting Radha Kunda in Vrindavan, which according to Rupa Goswami is the highest of the highest. And the devotee was like very young and very enthusiastic, but very like innocent, like, Prabhupada, I'd like to open a temple here. Because of course at that time the idea was like open temples everywhere. And Prabhupada was like, a temple here in Radha Kunda for what? And the devotee was like shocked, like Prabhupada asking him for what? I said, for preaching. And Prabhupada said, no, no, no. He said, Radha Kunda is not a place for ordinary activities like preaching. Of course, we are not saying preaching is ordinary. He's saying ordinary in connection to what's going on in Radha Kund, internal. Like in play, Radha Kunda is not a place to try to distribute books. It's a place for absorbing the lila forever. So you follow my point, right? So yeah, Nitya Navadvip, that part of course, there is Sankirtan as a daily basis. If you study we have done a study in the past of the Astakaliya Lila in Navadvip, because there is one in Krishna, the 8 periods, but there's one in Navadvip, and they are all day long, of course, engaged in Sankirtan, but it's not so much like to newcomers, but the Sankirtan is for their own inner experience, like it was the Sankirtan in Sri Vasangam. Interestingly, the Sankirtan of Mahaprabhu did not begin in the streets. It began in Sri Vasangam, in a closed circle, for relishing internal moods. It was not so much about getting newcomers, but it was about inner experience, and that started to overflow and then became. So that's, as we always say, no, achar, 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 prachar, naturally.
In connection to that, how can grace be appreciated by sadhana?
You are asking that because I mentioned that.
You mentioned that.
Yeah.
And how to get that faith in sadhana, and what is sadhana? Because sadhana could mean different things to many people, or what the guru tells. But sometimes it's hard to have faith because someone is shining 32 rounds or 16 rounds or 64 rounds, and then I'm just honestly sharing, like, how to get faith that this sadhana is helping me, or how to have faith in.
Well, generally, of course, as you mentioned, before speaking about sadhana, one has to perform sadhana in connection to technically speaking, according to Rupa Goswami, sadhana bhakti begins with Guru Padashraya. When he lists 64 angas of sadhana bhakti, the first is taking shelter in the Guru, receiving siksha, diksha, and serving the Guru. So there's saranagati first, there is surrender first. In the context of surrender, you engage in sadhana. Before that, he calls bhakti samanya bhakti, which is more like general bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is specifically something that generally one engaged under the guidance of Guru Vaishnavas. So, and of course, the idea is how to have faith in sadhana, because you are engaged in sadhana with the guidance of someone that supposedly you have faith in, because hopefully you accepted your Guru by faith, by having certain experiences, and by this I mean faith, that were undeniable enough as to say, I want to give my life to that person and surrender to that person. So based on that faith and trust in that person that guides me in sadhana, I will engage in sadhana with faith in the sadhana, because I have faith in the person who is engaging me, guiding me in sadhana. So I think it's important to connect all these things, so sadhana doesn't remain like an isolated thing that me and my practice, but it's always something that we engage in anugatya, which is like following the footsteps of other people that are engaging us in that, instructing us in that. So, yeah, that will be the answer.
Yes. It's like this. You spoke about Krishna-lila, and after many years I could understand that I am very much attracted with Krishna-lila, and after many, many years, although I think I have somehow served Gaura-lila, I don't understand a word about that lila, and I have more appreciation. And for me, it's very magical and mystical personality of Mahaprabhu. But moment when other lila is revealed, then there is possibility. There is Gaura-nagari rasa with Mahaprabhu, when they have a special bhajan and they reveal own rasa to Mahaprabhu. For me, it's so high that allowing myself to say, I don't understand, I don't reach it, I don't understand, and I'm in kind of fog. It's just a moment when I have to, I'm going out of the trying to understand or to reach.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me see if I understood the question, because you mentioned Adi Lila, and then you mentioned Gaur Nagar.
Chaitanya Charitamrita, when he's when there is.
But you mentioned that in Chaitanya Charitamrita there's a description of Gaur Nagar, because that's not the case.
There is a description of one kirtan where I just trying to get precise, and in that kirtan, Mahaprabhu is revealing his rasa to each of it's a kind of secret kirtan.
Okay.
And then he is revealing his rasa to each associate.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for me moment of mind blowing. I don't. This is like for top for me that I got, and I don't understand. Since that point, I don't understand anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's very confusing for me.
What's a confusing thing?
Because it's too high. I can understand
Okay.
rasa for between. I can understand between rasa and Krishna. It's prema, and I can understand all other rasas, not only 5, but there is 12 of them, like that. I can accept that, I can enjoy that. But what is going on with Mahaprabhu, I don't grasp. I simply don't grasp. And I have hope for for revelation when I'm so ready that I get revealed what I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
I get guidance.
Yeah, I think that also it helps that I mean it's fine that one feels this mind blowing. I mean that's the idea. Great. This is too high. Yes, great. So we remain in proper awe and astonishment about that. Also, I think it's in time it's good that we get more introduced to some of the things that we are talking today. What's actually happening in Gaura-lila? What's the inner experience, the inner mood in which the devotees serve Mahaprabhu? How that's expressed on a daily basis? What happens in the eternal day of Mahaprabhu? What's Mahaprabhu experiencing? I mean, there are descriptions of all that, no? And there are different books or kathas, lectures that I'm not saying that everyone should go there immediately, but I'm saying that in time one may become gradually more acquainted. If one feels that inspiration, of course, it's not something forced. But but yeah, at least in general is what I mentioned, no? The mood to serve Mahaprabhu is in Dhasya Bhav, understanding that what's he experiencing inside his heart is the Radha Bhav. And actually one will be serving in that, and in that service, in that identification to in relation to what Mahaprabhu is experiencing, it is described how every devotee will also enter into their particular mood in Vrindavan as well. So Mahaprabhu is, because sometimes also Mahaprabhu is a complex figure. Mahaprabhu doesn't only experience his Radha Bhav. Sometimes if you study the Gaura-lila, he will enter into Krishna Bhav. Or sometimes he will enter into Nrsimha Bhav. So and so on. Sometimes it is said that he experiences Manjari Bhav also in Chaitanya Charitamrita in a few sections. So it's a complex personality for sure, but it takes time. No rush. But at the same time, if one is willing to gradually enter into those mysteries, of course, one has to pray sincerely. We have to be in good association, and one has to be gradually more exposed to explanations as descriptions of what's that about. Now, today we just touch upon, I mean, today was just very much a preface to that. I mean, we actually in one sense didn't enter extremely into that. It was just like for us to be aware of, okay, Gaura-lila is not is much more than what we may think it is. So, yeah, we will be always students forever, as Tulasi says also. No?
I have one last question.
Okay.
We have the same question.
The same question? Okay, we'll conclude with this last question, which is the same question you have.
It's kind of two.
Tomorrow we have more Q&A. Remember, that's why I made the Q&A for tomorrow also.
Yeah, Mahesh, because you were talking about Gaura-ashtakam, then how Krishna takes everything, takes everything. I was wondering that then, why doesn't he take our anarthas away so instantly if he's so eager to take everything?
Because we are not very eager to let them go also. We are very expert at putting opposition to his thievery. I mean, he's a good thief, but also, I mean, we have our own will also. We are not machines. So he wants also to honor our freedom, so to say. No? And he's already taken away so much. We may be more aware still, like, oh, I have so many anartha, I have all this anartha still, and probably that's the case, but sometimes we don't see how much Krishna is already purifying and taking away. But we should take responsibility for that. No? I mean, not to enter into a guilt trip, but not to think, oh, Krishna is cruel or he's not so merciful. I mean, he's willing, as we spoke many times. He already loves us unconditionally and fully, and he's so willing to relate to each of us from the highest place. But also he's waiting for us to do our part in the relationship. No? It's reciprocal. And sometimes we are perfectly expert to put opposition to that. We have such an adhikar to be an obstacle to grace. Not to feel depressed and over chastise ourselves, but because anarthas means false value, and we are attached to false values. We are attached to see things as they are not. That's our reality, that's our identity, that's who we think we are. So when those anarthas are pointed and we are invited to transcend them, if we don't have a very robust sense of identity in a deep and spiritual level, we won't be able to let go of the other thing because it's the only identity we have. And we don't want to be deprived of identity because we will go crazy. So that's why we generally cling on anartha, because anartha provides a sense of identity. False, but a sense of identity. I am this, I am that, I have it. So we feel unconsciously even threatened when we will say, okay, it's letting go of our anartha is kind of letting go of who I am. So we need enough realization to understand that's not who I am, and to have realization of who I am. So the more I have realization of who I am, naturally I can let go of who I am not, which means anartha. But for that we have to have more and more realization of artha or paramartha instead of, and that will help us to let go of the anartha. So we have to, that's why bhajana kriya first and anartha nivritti then. The more you engage in bhajan, the more you acquire a positive realization, experience, sense of identity, the more naturally anarthas will go, not the opposite way around. Not trying to let go of the anarthas without developing, culturing a positive sense of who I am actually are, having deep experience. It won't happen. So yeah. So Krishna is not to fault for that. He's trying to be as good as a thief as he can, but there's a part we have to play also. Yeah. Okay, so let's conclude here, and tomorrow, if there are any remaining questions, we will have our last meeting, same time, same place, just Ishtagosti, so questions and answers, and we can share some other topics. So Sri Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Gaur Nityananda ki jai, Sri Gaur Gadadhar ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Sri Mayapura Dhama ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanand Haribo, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vachapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Hari.